I kind of enjoy the hustle and bustle, miss the city life, so decided to invest in London. I wanted to show you how we narrowed down our investment strategy in London, how we decided to do 1-bedroom apartments into 2-bedroom apartments. So let's get started. So when we first decided to invest in London, the first thing that we did was look for the cheapest apartments that we could find within central London. The cheapest apartments we could find generally tended to be the high-rise ex-council blocks. So normally when I say high-rise, anything in excess of, say, 10 stories. In this example on screen, you can see a high-rise ex-council block. Having viewed a couple of these properties, we went back, we ran the numbers and listed the positives and negatives, and here's what we found. In terms of these apartments, we were predominantly driven by price. These apartments were a lot cheaper than, say, a private flat. Rent for these apartments was not disproportionately cheaper than, say, for a private flat. The yield on these types of apartments tended to be very good. These types of apartments tended to have a separate kitchen. With these ex-councils as well, we found that they were in great locations, all within central London. We also found that the ground rent and service charge tended to be very reasonable when compared to, say, a private block or development. So what we found on these types of apartments were that buy-to-let lenders generally didn't like lending on these types of apartments. Generally, the LTV would be restricted, and also the interest rate tended to be a little bit higher as well. The buy-to-let lender also wanted to see that the ownership ratio. So for example, in this block, they would want to see that 50% of the flats are ex-council and the other 50% are privately owned. Having viewed a couple of these apartments, we realized that a lot of these apartments tended to be owned by investors, also tended to be cash purchases. So from a kind of long-term hold perspective, we had the feeling that we came to sell the apartment, that it would be sold to either a cash buyer or an investor. So on that basis, we felt that they would probably renegotiate us, quite heavily in terms of the price. So we did actually come across in central London apartments that were being sold at a discount, and also that there was, very little wrong with the apartments. In some of these apartments we saw, for example, didn't even need a refurb. So some of the positives that we realized with these types of apartments was that there was no refurb necessary, so we would have saved on the refurbishment costs. The apartment was purchased at a genuine discount. The fact that we didn't have to do a refurb meant that it was actually difficult to substantiate any uplift on the apartment. So private garden flats, flats with access to the garden. So it's a lower ground floor flat, so you could go from having a 1-bedroom flat to a 2-bedroom flat, or a 1-bedroom flat to a 3-bedroom flat. We were going to be adding square footage as well, so we would be doing a side extension and a rear extension as well. So this is a 1-bedroom flat for sale in London, SW8, and this is the back of the property. So if you look at the back of the property, there is space to do a side return and also go back further into the garden. So if you have a look at the floor plan in this example, we could have turned this 1-bedroom flat into potentially 3 bedrooms and completed a side return and a back extension to create a 3-bedroom apartment. So one of the things that we realized is that flats do not come with permitted development rights. So we would need to apply for planning permission, which normally takes about 8 weeks. There would have been quite a few costs involved. So architect fees, submission fees to the council for the planning application. We also found that a number of owners weren't keen on us making offers subject to planning. So having had a look at quite a few of these ex-council and private apartments, we actually came up with the criteria. So we were looking for 1-bedroom apartments in central London. The apartments had to have a separate kitchen. The kitchen had to be at least 7 to 8 square meters. The living room had to be at least 14 to 15 square meters. It had to be a low-rise block. We would also have a look at, the ownership, council versus private, ensuring that was kind of 50-50. So I just wanted to go through some of the positives and why we decided to pursue this particular strategy. So we were adding a bedroom. So this allowed us to add a significant amount of uplift to the end value. So one of the main things with this particular strategy was that it was a lower risk or low risk. There were no structural works, no planning permission needed. Also, suddenly we became akin to a cash buyer. And in central London, an extra bedroom, can be at least or more than £100,000. So when you compare the cost of a 1-bed to a 2-bed in certain areas in central London, there can be a significant uplift. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've got any questions or comments down below. And if you've got any video ideas, please let me know as well down below, and I'll be more than happy to make another video for you. Thanks, bye.